Hey everybody, Smart Silver Stacker here. It's Monday, March 14th, 2022, and we just had a fairly sizable pullback in commodities. Gold was down 28 bucks, silver lost 89 cents, a decline of over 3%, and crude oil fell back close to the $100 level, down almost 7% for the day. So why did we see this pullback? Well, a lot of it has to do with the possibility for peace, or the possibility for escalation in Ukraine. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. So let's get to it. First of all, I do just want to say a big thank you for tuning into my video today. If you get some value from watching it, please do give it a big thumbs up down below. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to the channel? So this pullback in commodities that we're seeing started on Sunday with headlines announcing that a fourth round of peace talks between Ukraine and Russia could begin as early as Monday. Today, however, that fourth round of talks concluded with no resolution. And I predicted in a video last week that headlines of progress in peace talks could cause a pullback in commodities and precious metals. And now it seems like this may be a pattern that is getting established, where on news of a potential peaceful resolution to the conflict, we see a drop in commodities, and on any news of escalation, we may see them move upward once again. And if that is the case, I don't think we'll have to wait too long before metals and energy resume their bull run, as there does seem to be a growing potential for this conflict to escalate and take on a larger scope. Take, for example, the statement from UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who said today, the prospect of nuclear conflict, once unthinkable, is now back within the realm of possibility. And this statement comes as Russian nuclear forces remain on high alert, a status they were placed on by Vladimir Putin himself following the advent of Western sanctions. And it's important to note that Russia does have the world's largest stockpile of nuclear weapons, so this is certainly a frightening prospect, and I do think it's safe to say that if, things do end up going nuclear, the amount of silver you have stacked probably won't be of too much concern to you, so you do want to make sure you are getting prepared in other ways as well. There has also been quite a bit of talk about the potential for Russia to deploy chemical or biological weapons in Ukraine. Although to me, I don't really know what would be the benefit to Russia of doing this. It seems like whatever military objectives they want to accomplish in Ukraine could probably be achieved through conventional means. But yesterday, Polish President Andrzej Duda issued a statement that any Russian use of chemical weapons would be a, quote, game changer, and that NATO would have to seriously consider how to respond. So it seems like there is a strong possibility for NATO to become embroiled in this conflict in the event that chemical weapons are used, as statements like these set a red line, so to speak, that could draw American forces directly into conflict with Russian troops. And, I don't agree with President Biden on too many things, but when he said that Americans in open conflict with Russian troops means World War III, I think he was correct. And, of course, by establishing a red line regarding chemical weapons use, the threat of a false flag being used to escalate this conflict into a larger regional war is also very real. War is a very profitable enterprise for many powerful organizations and corporations, so to think that a false flag is not a possibility is somewhat naive. And NATO continues to reinforce friendly countries bordering Ukraine. Here's a story about NATO troops on alert in Estonia and other Baltic nations, and I'll read a little bit of this story to you. On a recent weekday, and despite heavy snow, there were plenty of signs of activity in and around the frontline camp, just 160 kilometers from the Russian border, as soldiers wondered what Russian President Vladimir Putin's future plans might be. In the town of Tapa, north of the base, armed Estonian conscript practiced street patrols, methodically checking side roads for would-be invaders. Closer to the main camp, a civilian police vehicle skidded to a halt to block oncoming traffic before a convoy of 8 hulking military trucks came barreling along on a training exercise. Armored vehicles could also be seen tracking the edge of a forest further off-road. And one interesting sign of NATO reinforcements that I came across is the fact that many Western European nations have live streaming webcams available for many of their major roadways, viewable at the site livetraffic.eu. And over the past couple days, the vast majority of those webcams have gone offline. And some have speculated that this is to obfuscate the fact that NATO is transporting significant amounts of heavy equipment along those roadways to nations bordering Ukraine in anticipation of an escalation of this conflict. Also, as Russian forces move westward through Ukraine, their closer proximity to NATO forces also elevates the risk of a miscalculation leading to a broader conflict. Yesterday, Russia launched a missile attack at a Ukrainian base near the Polish border, and I'm sure that if events like this attack become more common in days to come, NATO troops stationed near the fighting are going to be getting a little bit jumpy. And it's not just NATO that could be getting drawn into this conflict. We're hearing reports now that Russia has been requesting military aid from China. These reports indicate that Russia has requested military equipment from China, although it remains unclear exactly what type of equipment the request was for. And the US did have something to say about this. Here's a headline we got today from Reuters. US warns China against helping Russia as anti-war protester disrupts state TV news. And from that article, the United States warned China after intense talks on Monday not to help Moscow at its invasion of Ukraine, while an anti-war protester interrupted Russian state TV news. Moscow denies that, saying it has sufficient resources to fulfill all of its aims. China's foreign ministry labeled the reports on assistance as disinformation. China had signaled willingness to provide aid to Russia, a U.S. official said, as National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met with China's top diplomat Yang Jiechi in Rome. We have communicated very clearly to Beijing that we won't stand by, State Department spokesperson Ned Price told reporters on Monday. We will not allow any person to compensate Russia for its losses. And this is all coming as China continues to set its eyes on Taiwan, issuing a stern warning recently against any nations who would come to Taiwan's aid militarily. China also continues to probe Taiwan's defenses, regularly violating its airspace with military aircraft. And you can bet that China is looking to Russia's example here, and they'll be learning as many lessons as they can about how the West responds to Russia's military aggression. And, one thing about China, you can sanction Russia and get away with it, but how many of you out there think that that would work against the Chinese? Can you imagine if the West sanctioned China in a major way? They manufacture everything over there. It's not even a possibility without crippling our own economy. So if they do get aggressive with Taiwan, what's the response? Again, we're back to World War III. So I believe this pullback in commodities will likely be short-lived. This conflict is far from over, in my opinion, and my forecast is that we'll be seeing more conflict and more instability before this whole thing is over. In fact, things may reach such a fevered pitch that we end up with a completely new monetary and world economic paradigm before this ends. And of course, if this conflict does end soon and in a peaceful way, and hopefully it does, I still think gold and silver will be moving much higher soon, simply as a result of monetary and fiscal policy here in the US. We've got the 2-day FOMC meeting starting tomorrow, and I think it's likely that we'll see an interest rate hike on Wednesday, but it will likely only be a token 25 basis point increase. I don't think the Fed can get away with kicking the can down the road any further, especially when you consider that the year-over-year inflation for February was a 40-year record high at 7.9%. They've got to make it look like they are at least trying to get inflation under control, but because of weakness in equities and due to the ongoing Ukraine conflict, I suspect that a 50 basis point hike is off the table. But we'll see soon, and ultimately, it won't matter what the Fed does this week because at the end of the day, they are still boxed in. They can't keep the economy propped up and fight inflation at the same time. So I think that rather than sacrifice the asset bubbles that they've been inflating, they'll sacrifice the dollar instead. That's why I view these pullbacks in precious metals as a buying opportunity, and I will personally be stacking more silver when I get the chance. None of this is financial advice, of course. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a guy on YouTube, but that's what I'll be doing. So what do you think about the ongoing conflict in Ukraine? Will there be peace soon, or are we looking at the beginning of World War III? Let me know in the comments below. And if you have a forecast for what the Fed will announce Wednesday, let us know that too. If you liked this video and you'd like to see more like it, then check out the videos that are popping up on your screen right now. Thank you all very much for watching. Stay safe and happy stacking. I'll catch you next time. Smart Silver Stacker, out.